Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome. I just came here to talk about a few things, and one of those few things has been that I think that the only team that's stopping this Thunder Dynasty or have a chance to compete with this Thunder Dynasty, and for which I think it's going to be for the next 5 to 7 years, is the Spurs. The only reason why I think the Spurs are going to be able to compete is because they're very similar in the way that their teams are constructed. Now, their teams was completely built differently, you know what I'm saying, with the Thunder being constructed gradually over time and getting piece by piece, and the Spurs basically having their franchise built off of one player, you know what I'm saying, with Wembanyama basically coming in and changing their entire trajectory of their franchise, you know what I'm saying. But not only that, I just think similar play styles with given that the Spurs like to run the floor and get in transition and, you know, capitalize off of turnovers and, you know, like to feed off the crowd and, like I said, just also playing defense, protecting the paint, you know, basically similar ways, having 2 7-footers, protecting the paint and having depth also coming off the bench with Keldon Johnson, and, you know, you also have surrounding your best player around shooters with Champagnie and Vassell. I just think the same way with the Thunder was not said, doesn't have to be explained, you know what I'm saying, especially with the Thunder. They basically have the best team from top to bottom in the whole entire NBA. But moving on, I just think, you know, similar play styles, also the way that they like to run the floor. But the only difference I will say between the two is, you know, the fourth quarter, the clutchness, you know what I'm saying? Being able to close out quarters, you know, because Oklahoma City, they're one of the best teams that I've probably seen in a while, probably in my lifetime, that I've seen that's really been able to close quarters like they do. Probably since that 2015 to 2017 Warriors team, you know, not even 2017, 2018, 2019, 2015 to 2019, that range of really being able to close out games and quarters, you know, because what would look like a 4-point lead going in a half would easily turn into 15 to a 20-point lead because of, you know, the fact that they are able to turn up their defensive intensity and really start to cause turnovers, especially when Alex Caruso and Cason Wallace start coming into the game and really causing chaos, you know. And I just think they're one of the few teams that you can take away their best player and they still somewhat are, like, they can compete with pretty much any team because of their depth. Now, they won't be the same team without Shea. You know what I'm saying? He just adds that extra unstoppableness. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a word, but I just made that up. But that unstoppableness to their team. But, you know, just being the fact that they're able to close out quarters when it really comes down to the fourth quarter and needing to get stops or needing to put the ball in the basket or close out the game, they're one of the best teams we probably ever saw do it. And the Spurs, you know, as time goes on, I think they will start to develop that skill of being able to close out games and really start to find their identity. Because right now, like, they have an identity, but their identity is Victor Wembanyama. You know what I'm saying? That's most of their identity. You know, if you take Victor Wembanyama away from that team, you know, they're a completely different team. You know, even though they have Luke Cornett, but sustaining success, Victor Wembanyama has to be a part of that puzzle. That stuff comes along with experience. So once the Spurs start getting experience, though, I think they can go hand in hand with the Thunder, you know. But I just think the Thunder still have their edge, but the only team right now that I even see close to competing with this Thunder is the Spurs. That's the only team I really see have a chance in the next 5 to 7 years of really competing with them. And it's really scary because, given that the Thunder had just played the Lakers, you know what I'm saying, and Shea only scoring 18, and the narrative of all season is if he doesn't score this much, or if he doesn't score that much, they don't have a chance, or they're not going to be as dominant or whatnot. I think him only scoring 18 and the Thunder still being able to pull out a victory, a convincing victory, I think it speaks volumes to this team as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Which kind of feeds into my argument that Thunder team, even without Shea, is still, it's still one of the best. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of feeds into my argument of why I feel like he shouldn't have the MVP. Not saying he doesn't deserve it, but I think there's better options out there. Is given that basically that game one of the Lakers and Thunder. You know what I'm saying? I think that pretty much sums up my entire argument of that. And just off of that, I think it speaks volumes to what this team can really become. You know what I'm saying? Especially given that they're doing this without Jalen Williams. You know what I'm saying? Who's also supposed to be, besides Shea, he's supposed to be that go-to. You know what I'm saying? And that they're still young. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much all of them have signed extensions, 4 or 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's looking dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So for at least the next 4 to 5 years, this team is looking like there's no team out there to stop it. And I think the Spurs have the best chance because another thing, they're also young, so they can also, go along with the trajectory of the Thunder, But outside of that, there's no other team. Like, I can't even come off the top of my head unless another super team forms or comes into play. Maybe the Detroit Pistons, maybe if they get another, young piece to go along with their core, maybe they'll have a chance. But as far as the Thunder making it to the finals or who's standing in their way, the Spurs are the next closest thing. And the potential of the Thunder, they definitely have a chance to compete with this Warriors dynasty, I will say. I just came on here to talk about another thing. Now, I've seen there's a lot of conversations with people trying to put, Shea at the table with, some of the all-time greats already. You know what I'm saying? And one of those players being Kobe, another one being Steph, AI, you know what I'm saying? And I'm basically giving my thoughts. And my thoughts is, I think we need to slow the roll. I think we need to slow down. You know what I'm saying? Because I think it's unfair to not only, Shea, but it's also disrespecting the game. You know what I'm saying? Because Shea is just now starting his dominance. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think it's fair to really, judge a player's first 3 years of dominance and get somebody's full resume. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? For him. Now, that's another thing to say, okay, we're comparing first 3 years to his first 3 years to Kobe's first 3 years, or his first 3 years to AI's first 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Of really coming into their own. You know what I'm saying? But to sit here and say, okay, he's really starting to sit at the table with these all-time greats and really starting to compare their whole career against each other is just unfair. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it's disrespectful to the game because of what Kobe and Steph and AI really meant to generations of players. You know what I'm saying? Like, they really influenced the game, the NBA as we know it today. You know what I'm saying? Kids growing up watching the game, watching AI and Kobe and growing up and trying to model their game after that. You know what I'm saying? Now, I don't think Shea, he has the potential. You know what I'm saying? Then it's another thing to say that he has the potential. It's okay to say he has the potential of a Kobe or an AI, or have the potential to have the influence of a Kobe, AI, or even Steph. You know what I'm saying? As far as manipulating the game and changing the game, the way people play. But to sit here and try to put their whole resume against his resume and only take his good years, it's kind of unfair to him. You know? I just think we need to slow our roll. Slow your roll, slow down. You know what I'm saying? Now I know we're in that era where we're trying to find the next face of the league, who's going to be next up. But I think we need to let it happen organically rather than jump into conclusions. Really analyze, let him come into his own first, because I think, you know, there's certain situations that Shea hasn't been through within his NBA career. You know, it's for like a Kobe or like a AI, to where they had to carry franchises, you know, where they had to, you know, make imperfect situation perfect, you know, where they had to make something out of nothing. You know, I just don't think Shea he's really been through that yet. You know what I'm saying? So far he's come into a perfect situation, has all the right pieces around him, and he basically is able to come into his own and really let the game come to him. You know what I'm saying? But you have players like AI and Kobe, they had to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? GM just threw pieces on the table and they had to put the puzzles together. You know what I'm saying? Kobe, he didn't have perfect situations, especially when Shaq left. Had to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? He had Pau Gasol, but Pau Gasol, let's be honest, not to disrespect Pau Gasol. You know what I'm saying? One of the best players, you know, of the generation, of the 2000s and 2010s. You know what I'm saying? But he's not no Shaq. You know what I'm saying? As far as dominance, would you rather have a Pau or a Shaq? You know what I'm saying? Y'all let me know. I'd rather have a Shaq. You know what I'm saying? Easier to play when you can just throw it down to him and let him do his thing. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, when Shaq left, you replace him with Pau and Lamar. It's like, you know, during that era, it was kind of all over the place. You know what I'm saying? And Kobe had to figure it out. There was no, you know, perfect situation once Shaq left. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with AI. Now, AI may have had probably the most difficult run, you know what I'm saying, besides Dirk, to the finals. You know what I'm saying? Where he didn't have, you know, he didn't even have a Pau Gasol by him. You know what I'm saying? He really had to figure out pieces to the puzzle, and he was already at a disadvantage because of his size. You know what I'm saying? Not to knock him off his side, but let's be honest, being a 6'1" point guard in a physical era of basketball, you know, it wasn't an easy thing to do. You know what I'm saying? To be able to average 30, lead a team to the finals. You know what I'm saying? Win MVP while all being 6'1" and being, if you don't average those numbers, your team doesn't have a chance.